In a shocking turn of events, the tight-knit community of Sebrepor, nestled within the Kpone Katamanso Municipality of the Greater Accra Region in Ghana, found itself at the center of a disturbing incident that has sent shockwaves through the area. The discovery of a suspected human trafficking syndicate operating in their midst has left residents reeling with disbelief. On Sunday, August 20th, 2023, the Tema Regional Police Command executed an operation that resulted in the apprehension of 2 West African nationals accused of holding a dozen others captive for unspeakable purposes. This sinister revelation has raised numerous questions about the depth of criminal activities lurking within unsuspecting communities. I am Kpone Katamanso. You're welcome to the square. Joining our gathering today is Carlos Achukalane, who is the journalist who's been following this beat in Accra, Ghana. We also have Dr. Arome Salfu, who is Executive Director for Africa Youth Growth Foundation. He's joining us from Abuja, Nigeria. And then we have Arinze Orakwe, who is Director of Training and Manpower Development at the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the square. I want to start with you, Carlos. You have been following this beat. What else do we know about the situation that took place in the Kpone Katamanso area?
First of all, give you a little background to what led to this particular incident. We got the information from a resident that they actually suspected the happening in the house, about a 5-bedroom house. And they kept hearing noises from the compound of the house, people appealing for some sort of support and all that. So that actually was what prompted them to call in the police, and the police came in. And to their surprise, 12 people were being kept in a particular room, and they were actually locked up. And these were young guys between the ages of 12 and to about 30, and they were being forced to engage in cybercrime activity, allegedly. And so the police, together with some military people, rescued these 12 people, and they were sent to the Tema Regional Police Command, and then they were subsequently sent to the police headquarters in Accra. So as we speak, that has been the situation. And so 12 of them were arrested, and we told that 2 other people were responsible for this kind of holding these people hostage against their will. So those 2 other, a man and a woman who were believed to be Nigerians, were equally arrested. So 12 were rescued, and 2 other people were arrested and were sent to the police. That's what we've done so far.
I see. Do we know anything about the victims other than their ages or their age range? Do we know what nationality they are?
All right. So the police have not been forthcoming with information, but information from residents, I mean, the assembly member for the area, clearly indicate that all 12 people who were actually being held hostage or more or less trafficked were Nigerians. And so that's what we know so far.
I see. Speaking about the police, I know this event took place about a week ago, give or take. What else have we heard about how the police is handling this matter regarding those who are supposedly victims here and those who are perpetrators of this crime?
Okay, you do know that there is a directive here in Ghana where the police cannot give out information from the district level and to some extent regional level. So I followed up this issue to the police hierarchy, because when I spoke to the regional commander, he told me that the issue had been transferred to the police headquarters. So I kept making calls, but information was not forthcoming from the police. But from the assembly member of the area, he told me a day after the story was aired, and then after the people were arrested, 3 days on, they brought them back to the house and they asked them to pack their belongings And so everything, they pack everything, which clearly showed that they were going to deport them to Nigeria. And so we tried to follow to get some pieces of information from the police to ascertain whether indeed these victims were being sent back to Nigeria or not. We've not been successful with that piece of information, but we're still pushing to see if we can get some official communication
on that
from the authorities. Yeah.
Carlos, there's just some breaking news coming in here out of Nigeria. I want us to take that. When we're done with that, we'll talk a bit more about the conditions that, the suspects were found in and the nature of, crime that they were forced to commit. But right now, breaking news coming into our studios here at News Central indicates that Rabiu Kwankwanso, the presidential candidate for the NNPP, has been suspended for 6 months. The new National Working Committee elected and sworn in. My colleague Bernard Aked has been following this story since it broke out right now, and he's joining me now to tell us a bit more about this. Bernard, talk to me about what else we know about Kwankwaso's suspension from the NNPP. Well, my understanding, we do not have Bernard, but breaking news coming in. Rabiu Kwankwaso has been suspended for the next 6 months from his own party, the NNPP. We'll tell you more about that. Right now, let's come back to our original plan for today, which is discussing the human trafficking bust in Accra, Ghana. Carlos Achukalani is a journalist with Joy News Television. He is one of those that broke the story. He's been shedding some light on this. Carlos, I was asking, what condition did they find the supposed victims in?
To residents and the assemblyman, who is more like the official mouthpiece of the community, they found these people to be deprived of food. They were looking pale, and you could tell from their skin and their looks and all that, because according to the assemblyman, one of the those captured actually complained to them that he had gone without food for days because he had actually secured some fraudulent deal for his boss, and he was demanding his share of the money, which his boss was not agreeing to. So for which reason he particularly was kept in one other room without food for days. And so when he was actually rescued, according to the resident, you could see that he even struggled to walk. And according to the resident, because these guys have been kept in the room for a very long time, when they were finally rescued, they struggled to even look at the sun. They had to cover their eyes and all that. So that's basically has been their condition when they were actually rescued.
Is there any indication of how long they had been there prior to the bust?
Yeah, so according to the neighbors, they kept hearing these noise and struggles from the house for close to about 3-4 months. So they believe that they've been kept in there for that long. But for that particular young man that I talked about a while ago, he was kept in a room for about 5 days without food. And I don't know whether he was even given water, but what he was telling the neighbors that relayed this information to me. So they've been there for more than 3 months. But according to the resident also, the landlord actually rented this place out to the 2 Nigerians for about a year. So Nigerians come in and they go. They see some Nigerian, the youth, they come, say, a month or two, and they don't see them again. So it appears that he has been operating in this particular house for some time, which we are unable to ascertain the period of time.
I see. We also read and learned that these individuals who were rescued were forced to engage in cyber crime. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, exactly. So they have not spoken to us officially on that, but according to the resident, and some of the ladies in the neighborhood are actually, according to them, having some sort of romantic relationship with a few of these 12 people. And so that's how come they're able to share these pieces of information. So according to some residents who wanted to remain anonymous, they have been engaging in this cybercrime activity. And so their bosses will give them data, they have laptops. In fact, when they were even arrested, about 15 laptops were seized by the police. And so they would go online and do all kinds of cybercrime or fraudulent activities, make money for their bosses, and in return, get paid and get food. And so those that were not able to get some of the deals online, they suffered all kinds of things, including not being fed and all that.
I see. Finally, talk to us about how common occurrences like this are in Ghana.
All right, so this is common, especially in that particular neighborhood. If you know that part of Ghana very well, you find a lot of Nigerians, but we are careful not to just limit this particular story to Nigerians because there are other West African nationals involved in this whole thing. But when you come to that part of Accra, which is the eastern part of Accra, Dowenya, Tema Community 25 area and all that, you realize that you find a lot of Nigerians renting homes and they prefer gated houses. And once they are in there, you are unable to tell what they do. And say you find, say, about 15, 20 people in a 3-bedroom house, and you're unable to tell. So it's a very common thing here in that part of the country, especially the eastern part of the country, for that,
Very
you
well.
know.
Carlos, thank you so much for your reportage on this. We'll leave it here for now. Carlos Achukalani is a journalist with Joy News TV in Accra, Ghana. We'll stick on this topic a bit longer and speak to our resource persons, you know, in the larger context of the continent and why Ghanaian officials are saying over 90% of trafficking cases there are victims and suspects from Nigeria. What can be done about the situation?
It's serious to the extent that as far as the agency is concerned, one is bad enough. And if you look at the population of some of these countries, actually are bordered with, having to pass through their countries. Those countries are not destination countries. Those countries are just transit countries. Ghana is a transit country. Togo is a transit country. So it is serious to the extent that if you say that 1 out of every 4 black men is a Nigerian, then you can guess why, not just why NAPTIP is bordered, the government of Nigeria must be bordered. And if you look at the repatriations, the number of persons that are being brought back from Libya, which right now you know that has a government in disarray, then you know that is a serious problem. The number that are being repatriated from Morocco and the likes of the country at the threshold of the Mediterranean. So to that extent, it's bad. It is bad and it is bad. And every hand must be on deck, not just to nip this in bud at the board, but also to make sure that we rein in our best and our brightest that are being destroyed by trafficking persons.
Indeed. I'll have us talk about what the hands on deck should be doing, but let's also discuss the issues or the root causes of all of these trafficking cases. Ghanaian officials are saying over 90% of trafficking cases in their country are Nigerian victims and Nigerian suspects. Why do you think that is the case?
It is the case because of our population, which is the excuse and not the reason. The reason is one, because we have issues of poverty, we have issues of disempowerment, issues of we have a patriarchy as a dominant factor, issues of exclusion, issues of lack of educational opportunity. These are the triggers that cause these things to be syndrome. So everybody wants out. If we make home, then people want to stay at home. If we make conducive for learning, conducive for living, that young people can stay back home and explore opportunities that are available back home, then can guess why these things are happening. So Nigeria has the largest population when it comes to compared to all the countries in ECOWAS sub-region. And the ECOWAS travel protocol, free movement of persons, which allows ECOWAS citizens to crisscross the ECOWAS sub-region, actually a protocol that supports economic activities and to boost businesses have been exploited by criminals to move people around. Just about last 3 weeks, we did an annual review mechanism meeting with a peer review mechanism meeting sponsored by ECOWAS, under the guise of ECOWAS, sponsored by ICMP. The ICMP is the acronym for International Center for. All these points were shared by Ghanaian authorities. Abena, who was the head of the Office on Trafficking in Persons in Ghana, actually confirmed all of this, and we're working with them right now to see how we can get the facts, not just get the facts, but to get them home and safely home too. I think the issue is that we need to make sure that Nigerians must begin to hold government accountable and begin to do what they're supposed to do.
I see. I've just been told that Dr. Arome Selfo, who is Executive Director for the Africa Youth Growth Foundation, has rejoined our connection. Doc, it's good to have you back. You've missed the beginning of our conversation, but if you had my conversation with the Ghanaian journalist, you'd realize that the community's intervention was very key to finding the victims and arresting the suspects. Again, what does that tell you about surveillance? But not only that, again, what should people learn within their communities in order to help law enforcement agencies care practices like this?
Yeah, thank you. I think every responsible citizen should be very conscious of activities and events around their neighborhood. Every single individual should be very, at alert to see that they're able to report incidences of human trafficking or any form of abuse, for that matter. So I want to commend the neighbors who were able to report, and alerted the police authorities, and then they were able to put the situation under control. And I think that is what makes a sane society. That is what makes a society to be decent, that you actually really get interested in what happens, in the next door or in the next neighborhood. That way, everyone is protected. So I want to commend the effort of the neighbors for their thoughtfulness to escalate the incident to the police. And then, of course, I want to believe that it's also about the culture of being responsive, of being responsible to one another, and it has to do with the level of consciousness and tradition, that the people have been able to understand and learn over the years. When you see that it's a collective responsibility to get a decent society, then everybody will do what they have to do to make sure the society is what's supposed to be safe for everybody to live and to be happy, while living in that society.
I want us to talk about cross-border trafficking. Over the past year, we've seen it in Nigeria, we've seen it in Ghana, we've seen it in Cote d'Ivoire, and I believe, other West African countries within the same enclave. I'll stick with you, Dr. Selfu. Talk to us about how countries could collaborate to curb human trafficking in West Africa.
Okay, I think the chief document on the regional or sub-regional cooperation is the ECOWAS Free Movement Protocol, and other, multilateral, bilateral, agreements that would facilitate and support, the ECOWAS Free Movement. Traditionally and ideally, we should have countries within the sub-region working, collaborating, building synergy, building cohesion along this pathway of ensuring free movement on one side, protection of migrants and people and goods on the other side, and then defending the rights of migrants, that are moving or crossing, across the borders. That is the spirit and the essence of the ECOWAS free movement. Free movement of goods and services and people, across the ECOWAS sub-region. The extent of collaboration and the extent of partnership, among the countries or within the countries that make up the sub-region is another challenge altogether.
Let's ask Arinze whether or not there exists any such collaboration and how it is going. Arinze, what can you share with us? You were very much directly in the thick of things when it comes to trafficking. Arinze, can you hear us? Well, it seems we've lost Arinze on that connection. When we get him back, we would ask him about that. In the meantime, we'll stick with Dr. Selfu. Dr. Selfu, I want us to talk about, at some point we'll talk about some more solutions, but one of the solutions that I want us to discuss now is survivor recovery. If you listen closely to the reporter, it's unclear the whereabouts of these victims. Police might have good reason for that to protect these victims, but as we have seen in other places on the continent, particularly in West Africa, there is very little recovery assistance for victims other than take them back to their home countries or to their homes. What should be done for victims or survivors of human trafficking in order to properly reintegrate them into society?
Okay, I think the reintegration protocol is well established within the migration management structure. The first, to reckon with under the protocol would be to provide reception, where, the rescued victims would be able to get attention and get profiled. Then there should be counseling, psychosocial support. Then you offer them shelter. Depends on the situation, depends on the place and the circumstance. Maybe the shelter first, then you can offer them psychosocial support, mental support, and then you can support them with any medical condition if they are challenged medically. Extend medical assistance to them, conduct certain form of tests, and then be able to make them feel welcome, and then you can talk about family tracing, and then if possible, if the family is well accommodating and receptive, then you can talk of livelihood support in order to stop, remigration or being a victim all over again, because the conditions that made them to be victim in the first instance perhaps yet to change. But if you want them to escape out of the nets of traffickers on a sustainable basis, you've got to make sure that you improve their conditions from what initially, triggered their vulnerability. So to a large extent, the protocol should be respected by those expected to actually, attend to the issues of human trafficking, rescuing, and indeed attending to their welfare, safety, and dignity. For example, in Nigeria, we have NAPTIP. One of the challenges NAPTIP has faced over the years is poor funding. And that, again, has encumbered their ability to extend, their psychosocial, mental, and even other support like shelter.
Very well. For some reason, we have lost audio on Doc, but thankfully, Arinze Orakwe, who's director of the Training and Manpower Development at the National Agency for the Prevention of Trafficking in Persons, has rejoined our Zoom. And Doc, I hope we still have you here. But Arinze, we were talking earlier about cross-border collaborations to assist in mitigating human trafficking. And we wanted to ask you whether those exist and how are they working to prevent cross-border trafficking so far?
They are doing well to the extent that they understand that if criminals can network, then law enforcement and countries have no other opportunity than collaborate. That's why the United Nations rightly termed it cross-border trafficking. And because of that, it's important that countries, within the sub-region must close rank, and not just close rank, but also mount similar roadblocks, and then also erect similar institutions, just like Nigeria has done to combat trafficking in persons. Now, I must tell you that the doctor is right, but the problem is not the ECOWAS travel protocol, the free movement of persons protocol. The problem is that criminals exploit every situation. What they have actually gone to do is that since COVID-19, trafficking in persons has now been done more with your Android phones. Your Android phones is what they use, and that's what they use. They recruit people through Android phones. You see them, they post their ploys for unsuspecting victims, making promises of all manner of job offers, all manner of dollars you're going to earn, especially in the Asian and in Europe. And those who are challenged, or those who have suffer from issues of privation or whatever, lack, fall prey. Not just lack, people fall prey because everybody wants out. They believe that the grass is naturally green on the other side. So it's a huge challenge because NAPTIP, you must understand, just like Dr. Roman said, is the only NAPTIP law enforcement agency that rehabilitates victims of crime. And it requires a lot of money. If you know how much the agency is now working out with IOM, International Organization for Migration, to bring this people back in their numbers, and more want to go because the social system is a bit not very good for young people. They are the ones who are more, by way of catchment, that want out, want to go out. So, until the rotten tooth is pulled out, as they say, then must chew with caution. What it demands of all of us is to begin to hold government accountable and make them do the things that they are supposed to do, support development activities, support the inclusion. Gender issues must be included in our discourse so that women are given more opportunities, and young people are actually included in discussions and whatever. So that's the point I want to make.
So at the individual level, as we wind down on our conversation, what tips would you give people, Arinze, to watch out for on some of these deceptive advertisements and, family and friends who may be telling them and enticing them with the pull factors that we have spoken about? What are the tips that you'd give them on how to detect what could be a potential human trafficking situation?
Thank you. The fact is that, one, migration is your right. You have every right to want to seek out. From time, you have every right. NAPTIP is not set up to stop you from migrating. So if you see opportunities like that, then ask questions. You know, when it's too good, then it's not good. There's something wrong, especially when they tell you, don't tell anybody, don't share with anybody, okay? Because these things are bound. Traffickers make all manner of promises. I don't have a passport. Is that your problem? I don't have money. I'll provide for it. When people begin to make promises that support everything under the sun, that answers all questions, because nothing under the sun answers all questions, but except traffickers. So when people make offers like this, offers that are too good to be true, then it's not good. Check. Call NAPTIP. Call NAPTIP, because NAPTIP will not stop you. NAPTIP is set up to stop criminals exploiting you. Okay, tell your parents. Your parents, nobody can love you more than your parents, unless most times if it's neighbors or relatives, because most times it's relatives and the people that are related to you in blood that actually traffic you. So call NAPTIP. Check with the law enforcement organizations. If you check, especially NAPTIP, IOM, check. If it's not true, then it cannot be true. Right. There are safe migration patterns that you can follow, safe paths that to follow for migration. So when they make these promises, okay, you go and swear for me in a shrine. Why would anybody want to do you good and ask you to go and swear in a shrine? Please run as fast as God has any ground. It doesn't smell good and it's not good. So those are the telltale signs. And when they begin to rehearse you that your name is not good enough, that we have to change your name. Most of the guys that have been brought back from Italy, from Spain, from Libya, their names do not differ from anything than faith, divine, love, happiness, all those kind of things. They will change their name. When people do those kind of tell you to change your names, please run, because why would I want? That's my name. I don't want to answer any other name. The white man must find a way. They don't come here as answering a Okonkwo or a large or whatever. So they answer their names. So when people make offers like that, and when you see vacancies in Saudi Arabia that offers all manner of job offers, places them there, please run, because there are Saudi Arabians who want those jobs. Why are they not picking up those offers? Why must all the jobs under the sun be there?
I'm just going to, sneak this in. What is the NAPTIP number that if anybody is going through a situation right now, confused or however far they are neck deep in this, they could call?
The number is 070 30,000 203. That is the number.
Thank you so much for
070 30,000 203. That's the number.
Thank you so much, Arinze, and thank you, Dr. Arome, for your time. Gentlemen, it's been a great conversation. Earlier, I spoke with Carlos Achikalane, who is a journalist in Accra, Ghana. He broke the story about the human trafficking ring bust in the country. Remember that you can call NAPTIP 070 30,000 202 203. We hope to be back here same time tomorrow. Make a date with us. We also brought you breaking news today, which we expect that you stay with us. We'll bring you more details on our 3 p.m. news, which comes up right after this. I am Kpone Katamanso. Bye-bye.